Welcome back to the deep dive. This is the place where we take these massive piles of scientific data and we try to turn them into sharp, memorable insights just for you.
Yes, and today's topic is a big one.
It is. We're putting on our explorer hats and diving into something that is, it's fundamentally woven into the very structure of your mind.
We're talking about the profound and really measurable influence of music on the human brain.
Right.
And we're going way beyond just, I like this song or
Okay.
this helps me relax.
This isn't about taste.
Not at all. This deep dive is about the hard science, the clinical studies, the fMRI research, the neurological evidence.
All of it. We're looking at how music impacts everything from, say, age-related cognitive decline
To your emotional chemistry, and even, and this is the amazing part, actual measurable neurological repair in patients who've had strokes or have Parkinson's.
The sources today are, well, they're substantial. We've synthesized studies from Kyoto University on aging.
Research on neuroplasticity from places like Johns Hopkins, deep dives into the mechanisms of binaural beats.
And even cutting-edge articles on AI-generated therapeutic music.
So our mission today is really to shortcut all of that for you. We want to deliver the core insight into why music provides what some people are calling a total brain workout.
And maybe more importantly, how you can start harnessing that power today, right now, regardless of your age or, any musical ability. #tag introduction and the total brain workout, the widespread benefits of music. So let's jump straight into that idea. Music as a comprehensive cognitive activity.
Right.
If I told you, go do a total brain workout, you'd probably imagine solving a complex puzzle, maybe learning a new language.
Sure, you use those steps.
But the research suggests that simply engaging with music is, well, it's arguably one of the most intense, simultaneous cognitive exercises you can give your brain.
Oh, it is. It's the ultimate multisensory coordination activity. And to really get why it's a total workout, you kind of have to trace the neurological journey of sound.
Okay, so walk us through it.
It starts as a vibration, right? Enters the ear canal, gets translated into electrical signals through the auditory nerve, and then heads to the brainstem.
And that's just the first step. That initial processing is incredibly fast, but then the brain has to actually make sense of the structure of it all.
Precisely. That raw electrical data gets routed through dozens of different networks. And here's where the cognitive load comes in.
The workout part.
The workout part. Music is structural, it's mathematical, it's architectural. Your brain is performing this intense, complex computing.
Just to analyze pitch and rhythm and duration.
And the relationships between hundreds of notes per minute. And this complexity, it forces the brain to coordinate not just your hearing, but your sensory systems, motor systems, memory, emotion, all at once.
That coordination, it sounds metabolically exhausting for the brain. Are there measurable limits to how long the brain can sustain that workout before it just gets tired?
That is a brilliant question. And the answer, really, is rooted in efficiency. While it's demanding at first, the more complex the music or the deeper you engage with it, especially if you're practicing an instrument, the more established and efficient those pathways become.
So it's not just about the auditory cortex.
Oh, not at all. You're linking the temporal lobe for hearing with the motor cortex and the cerebellum for coordination and timing.
And the frontal lobe for executive function, for predicting what comes next.
And the limbic system for all that emotion. Because music activates almost all parts of the brain at the same time and forces them to sync up, it strengthens the overall network communication.
Okay, so those strengthened, broader pathways translate directly into better function in daily life.
Yes.
We're talking things like improved concentration, spatial reasoning, problem-solving skills, even when you're not listening to music.
Exactly. You know that phrase, use it or lose it. When you stop using certain neural pathways, they can atrophy. But because music is such a comprehensive input, it actively strengthens and maintains those really broad critical networks.
Okay, let's unpack this a little more, because everyone sort of accepts that musical training helps kids, with early development.
Right, that's a given for most people.
But what about us, the adults? There's this prevailing wisdom that often says, it's too late to learn.
It's just not true. The sources suggest the brain is incredibly adaptable throughout our entire lifespan. The benefits are absolutely not just for children.
And this is probably one of the most encouraging and I think actionable findings in all our sources today.
It really is. We have this compelling longitudinal study from Kyoto University. They followed older adults. Average age was 73 over a 4-year period.
73, wow.
And the results?
Yeah.
They fundamentally challenged this whole narrative of inevitable cognitive decline.
So tell us about the methodology. What did they find when they compared the different groups in the study?
So they recruited older adults who'd never played an instrument before, and they taught them for 4 months.
Okay.
But the crucial difference was the follow-up. One group stopped playing after that initial period. They went on to do other non-musical hobbies.
And the other group?
The other group kept playing. They maintained their musical practice for over 3 years. And the comparison between those two groups was, well, it was stark, highly telling.
So what happened to the group that stopped playing?
They experienced the expected, age-related changes. Specifically, they showed a measurable decline in their verbal working memory.
Okay.
And they also demonstrated the anticipated age-related shrinkage in certain brain tissue. They were basically following the predicted trajectory of aging.
And the musicians, the ones who kept going?
They showed no expected age-related decline in verbal working memory.
None.
None. Their scores stayed stable, which for a group with an average age of 73, that is a phenomenal result.
That's incredible.
And there's more. The structural MRI data showed that musical practice actually strengthens and protects areas that are really vulnerable to decline, specifically the regions that govern movement, coordination, and rapid memory processing.
So their brains weren't just maintaining function.
They were building a more engaged, more robust neural network. Their brains showed increased functional connectivity.
So we're actually saying that musical practice, even in your 70s, is essentially fighting cellular senescence in those critical memory and movement areas. That's huge.
It is huge. The cognitive effort it takes to read sheet music, coordinate both hands, keep rhythm, and recall a melody that's providing genuine, concentrated neural protection.
And the researchers pointed out how accessible this is.
Yes, that's a key point. For older adults who might have mobility challenges or joint pain where vigorous physical exercise might be really difficult,
Right.
playing an instrument becomes this gentle, powerful, and profoundly effective alternative for maintaining and even boosting brain function.
That's a brilliant way to frame it. It's a gentle form of neuroaerobics.
Exactly.
It means the barrier to entry is so much lower than people think, and the return on that investment is immediate and it's lifelong.
Absolutely.
So let's just list some of those immediate, non-therapeutic benefits that adults report when they take up lessons.
Okay, let's do it. So, beyond the neuroplasticity we just talked about, there are these huge psychological and practical gains.
First up, enhanced cognitive function, which the Kyoto study clearly shows.
Right. It actively boosts memory retention. It sharpens complex problem solving.
Like improvising or reading ahead in the music.
Exactly. And it drastically improves your concentration and sustained focus.
And number 2 would be stress and mood regulation.
Yes, clinical studies on piano training specifically showed a direct reduction in the body's stress markers.
So people actually reported feeling better.
Significantly. Lower levels of psychological distress, depression, and fatigue compared to the control groups. It forces this mental escape and re-engagement.
Okay, number 3. Building confidence and self-esteem.
This one's simple, but so powerful. The process of setting a goal, like learning a piece, and then achieving it, no matter how slowly, that provides immediate, tangible evidence of your own capability.
And that leads into the 4th one, which is lifelong learning and growth.
It satisfies that innate human curiosity, that desire for new challenges that just keeps life feeling vibrant.
5th is a practical one, building time management skills.
Absolutely. Consistent, disciplined practice. Even just 15 minutes a day, it demands structure, planning, prioritization.
And those are skills that transfer directly into your professional and personal life.
For sure. And finally, number 6 is just personal fulfillment and joy.
The core of it, really.
Ultimately, music is a powerful form of expression. The act of creating something beautiful is just profoundly rewarding, and it builds community.
So the idea that one activity can sharpen my executive function skills and reduce my depression and fatigue, that is just a phenomenal return on investment.
It truly is. It's a multi-tool for mental health and cognitive longevity.
Okay, let's transition now. Let's talk about one of the most relatable phenomena we have with music.
Ah, yes.
You hear that one forgotten song, and instantly you are transported. It's not just a memory. You feel the air, you remember the smell, the exact emotional tension of that moment.
The time machine effect.
Exactly. Why does music have this singular, unique power to resurrect these complex, detailed memories that other senses just can't match?
That's the phenomenon we call music-evoked autobiographical memories, or MEAMs.
MEAMs.
Right. These are spontaneous, involuntary recollections of personal experiences triggered by hearing a piece of music.
And they are very specific kinds of memories.
Very. They're characterized as explicit episodic memories, meaning you consciously recall the full context.
Yeah.
The who, what, when, where, and especially the emotions of the original event.
Now, are these memories weighted differently depending on when you first form them?
Oh, absolutely. MEAMs often exhibit what researchers call the reminiscence bump,
The reminiscence.
which means the overwhelming majority of these powerful, emotionally rich memories. They are concentrated around a very specific developmental window, generally between the ages of 7 and 19.
So if a song from my high school years instantly brings back this rush of feeling and detail, that's not just a coincidence.
Not at all.
It's because my brain actively coded that music as fundamentally important because of all the intense hormonal and emotional development happening then.
That is precisely the biological argument. This period is when your identity is being forged, when you have so many first experiences, when key social bonds are established,
So the music of that era.
which you often hear repeatedly during these high emotional peaks. It becomes deeply salient. It anchors those memories in a way that music you hear later in life usually doesn't.
So let's look at the neurobiology, the hub that enables all this, which we can now see thanks to fMRI research. When a MEAM gets triggered, what specific brain regions are coordinating this huge retrieval process?
We see this really sophisticated neural conversation happening involving three main components. First, the input.
Mm-hmm.
The auditory cortex processes the raw sound.
Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward.
Step one.
Step two, we engage the limbic system.
Mm.
This is the center of emotion and primal memory,
And that includes the amygdala.
which handles that rapid emotional processing, and the hippocampus right next to it, which is critical for memory consolidation and retrieval. Their activation at the same time is what gives the music its intensely evocative emotional charge.
So the sound comes in and it's instantly tagged with a deep emotional label right there. What's the third, maybe less obvious region?
Right, let's zoom in on the neurobiology here, because the third region is particularly fascinating. It's the medial prefrontal cortex, or MPFC.
The MPFC.
The MPFC acts as the supreme coordinating hub. Its job is to bind the structural aspects of the music with your personal autobiographical memories.
And when you say structural aspects, what are we talking about?
We're talking about things like tonality tracking, or TT. TT is the brain's ability to recognize the sort of inherent mathematical relationships in a piece of music. The movement through tonal space, the predictability of a chord progression, anticipating the next note.
So the MPFC is what integrates that complex analysis with the personal context of when and where you heard it.
It's essentially the brain's conductor, linking the musical score to your life's story.
Incredible.
And here's the critical detail, especially when we talk about neurodegeneration. The medial prefrontal cortex is one of the last regions to degenerate in diseases like Alzheimer's.
Wow, one of the last to go.
This striking resilience is thought to be in part because the MPFC is continuously involved in self-referential thought, and it has these robust connections across multiple systems.
So its structural integrity helps explain why familiar music is often still accessible to patients long after they've lost short-term memory or even verbal recall.
It's a huge part of the explanation.
That connection is just profound. It means the physical structure of our memory system is resiliently designed to hold on to the musical part of our lives. But if music is such a superior memory cue, why doesn't, say, smelling a perfume or seeing an old photo work just as well?
That's a fair challenge. And studies have compared MEAMs to memories evoked by other cues, a familiar face, a scene from an old TV show, a specific scent, and the data shows music is objectively superior.
In what way?
MEAMs contain significantly more episodic detail, so rich, narrative context, they have greater personal significance, and they elicit a much stronger and typically more positive emotional response.
So why? Why does music encode memories better than other things?
It's a multifaceted advantage, both chemical and structural. The role of emotional valence is critical. First, positive emotions and high arousal during the original memory formation dramatically strengthen its vividness.
And music is an arousal agent.
It is. Second, listening to that music later facilitates retrieval. It triggers a rush of nostalgia or joy, which chemically reinforces the memory every single time you recall it.
And this has to involve a cascade of brain chemistry.
Oh, it does. Music modulates the release of key neuromodulators. You get a surge of dopamine.
Pleasure, reward.
Right. You also get modulation of serotonin, which regulates your mood, and oxytocin, which is linked to social trust and bonding. Which makes sense since we often experience music socially.
And there's more recent research, too.
What's particularly compelling is preliminary animal research suggesting that active engagement with music might actually bolster neurogenesis, the creation of brand new neurons, specifically in the hippocampus.
So it could be strengthening the memory infrastructure itself?
That's the idea.
So music isn't just recalling memories, it's chemically rewarding the brain for retrieving them, and maybe even helping build the infrastructure that creates new ones.
It's a self-reinforcing cycle of cognitive development. That's the summary of the neurophysiological advantage.
Before we move on from emotion, we have to touch on the classic, though debated, psychological dichotomy. Major scales sound happy or bright, and minor scales sound sad or dark. Is that a universal human thing, or is that just cultural conditioning?
This is a great deep dive into the cultural debate. While the physics of sound certainly supports the perception a major chord is measurably more consonant, its overtones align sooner, making it sound more agreeable.
But the emotional label, happy or sad, that's the part that's in question.
That is heavily influenced by cultural context. The association of the minor key with sorrow or melancholy is deeply ingrained in the Western music tradition.
Because we've used it for centuries to score moments of tragedy or introspection in everything from classical music to movies.
Precisely. So researchers questioned this universality. They ran cross-cultural studies with groups who had minimal exposure to Western music, like certain tribes in northwest Pakistan.
And what did those studies find?
They found that while the basic physical difference between the chord's consonance versus dissonance was perceived, the specific emotional labels of sad for minor and happy for major were not consistently applied.
So it strongly implies the emotional framework is learned. It's culturally dependent.
Exactly. We in the West have been continuously exposed to this association, which reinforces the emotional link. So the pursuit of emotional meaning in music always involves sociology and philosophy as much as it does physics.
Okay, so moving from the emotional and memory power of music, let's talk about using music as a direct input tool, something that can actively synchronize and change your brain state.
Right, the idea of tuning the brain.
Yeah, the goal here is to understand how rhythmic input can literally change your brain's electrical signals.
This involves measuring brain waves. These are the rhythmic electrical signals generated when large groups of neurons synchronize their activity. We measure them with an EEG.
And they're categorized by frequency, measured in hertz.
Exactly. So if we can control the input rhythm, we can potentially guide the brain to a desired frequency state.
Can you walk us through the 5 frequency bands and what each state actually represents, practically speaking?
Certainly. We'll go from low frequency, or slow, to high frequency, fast.
Okay.
First is delta, 1 to 4 hertz. This is your lowest frequency, associated with deep, restorative, dreamless sleep and healing. True unconscious rest.
Then you have theta.
4 to 8 hertz. This is linked to deep relaxation, the dream state or REM sleep, and states that are really conducive to creativity and flow. It's that mental state right before you drift off to sleep.
After that is alpha.
8 to 14 hertz. This is often called the flow state. You're focused but relaxed. Stress is lower, learning is enhanced. It's how you feel after a gentle jog or meditation. Calm but ready.
Then we get into the higher frequencies, beta.
14 to 30 hertz. This is your standard awake, engaged state. It's linked to active, analytical thinking, problem solving, high-level cognition, though too much high beta can sometimes tip into anxiety.
And finally, the highest, gamma.
30 to 100 hertz. These are the highest frequency waves, associated with peak cognitive function, deep concentration, and synthesizing information across the brain, often seen during those aha moments of insight.
So if you can influence the brain's signals, you can potentially manipulate your mental state. And that's where things like binaural beats come in, promising to tune your brain like a radio.
A binaural beat is technically not a real sound. It's an auditory illusion created inside your brain when you listen to 2 slightly different tones at the same time, one in each ear.
Okay, give me an example.
So if you listen to a 440 hertz tone in your left ear and a 444 hertz tone in your right, your brain, trying to reconcile this conflict, perceives a third pulsating tone at the difference.
Which is 4 hertz in the theta range.
Exactly.
And the brain then tries to match this phantom frequency. How does it even calculate that difference?
That mechanism is called the frequency following effect. The brain's activity tries to sync up with the perceived frequency of that beat, potentially training the mind toward that desired state.
And the part of the brain that does the calculation.
That's the superior olivary complex, or SOC, located in the brainstem.
And what's the SOC's main job normally?
Its primary job is processing timing and intensity differences between sounds coming into the 2 ears, which is crucial for sound localization, knowing where a sound is coming from.
So it uses that same system to process the two different frequencies and generate the third, illusory one.
Right, which the auditory cortex then registers, and that drives the frequency following effect.
So are the clinical findings definitive? Can I just listen to a gamma beat and instantly hit peak cognitive function?
The research has shown promising effects on several things, including reducing anxiety, improving attention, boosting memory, even modulating pain perception.
But it's not a magic bullet.
No. For example, some studies suggest beats at alpha or theta frequencies can reliably help with relaxation. However, the exact mechanisms are still heavily debated, and researchers widely caution that we need more rigorous study to establish reliable therapeutic guidelines.
So what's the practical advice?
Experiment. Higher frequencies like beta or gamma are generally targeted for focus, while lower frequencies like theta or delta are for deep relaxation or sleep.
Okay, moving beyond synthetic beats, let's talk about the natural influence of music specifically, tempo. We all know background music can affect our mood, but what does the science say about how tempo directly affects our cognitive processing speed?
There was a fascinating study on this. It looked at how slow tempo versus fast tempo music affected performance in 3 key areas: motor speed, visuospatial speed, and linguistic speed.
And the results weren't what you'd expect.
No, they contradicted the simple assumption that fast music equals fast performance.
So what were the key findings for fast tempo music?
Interestingly, fast tempo music showed no significant difference in speed or performance compared to the no music control group.
None at all.
None. The biggest impact came from the slow tempo music, and that impact was overwhelmingly negative for speed.
Wait, slow music made people perform worse?
Significantly worse, yes.
Okay.
It decreased processing speed and resulted in worse overall task performance.
But there was a nuance, right?
Yes, a major one. In the linguistic task, while the slow tempo decreased the processing speed, it actually increased the accuracy rates.
So you're slower, but you're also more deliberate and you make fewer mistakes.
Exactly. It suggests the slow pace forces a different mode of thinking, more careful consideration instead of rapid execution.
So why does tempo affect processing speed in this kind of inverted way?
It's complicated, and the researchers framed it using the Yerkes-Dodson law.
The YDL.
Right. This law dictates that performance on any task peaks at an optimal level of physiological or psychological arousal. It forms an inverted U-curve.
Can you explain that inverted U-curve?
Sure. If you have very low arousal, say from slow music or low motivation, your performance is poor. As arousal increases, performance improves, hitting a peak at the optimal point.
If it gets too high.
Like with very fast, loud, or chaotic music or high stress, performance quickly declines into anxiety and distraction.
So the theory is the slow music pushed subjects too far down the low arousal side of the curve.
Exactly. Decreasing the cognitive drive needed for speed, even if it improved the capacity for accuracy. And the fast music may have only boosted arousal to match the control group's optimal level, not to exceed it.
That makes perfect sense. Music can't fix an arousal deficit if it doesn't stimulate the brain into that peak performance zone.
Precisely.
Okay, now for something almost everyone experiences. Earworms. Why, scientifically, do these frustrating song snippets just repeat in our minds, and what does that tell us about our executive function?
Earworms, or involuntary musical imagery, are those looping song fragments that play on repeat, and they're different from when you consciously try to recall a song.
Mechanisms are complex, I assume.
They are. One primary driver is thought to be the Zeigarnik effect,
Which is?
the psychological observation that the brain remembers incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. A song snippet that's incomplete creates this cognitive tension that demands resolution.
It's the neural equivalent of a nagging to-do list item. I had this irritating commercial jingle stuck in my head for 3 hours last Tuesday. It's like an open browser tab you just can't close.
That's a perfect analogy.
Huh.
And these loops involve neural circuits that engage the auditory cortex and, critically, the default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN is what's active when your mind is wandering or daydreaming, right?
Yes. So when you aren't actively focused on a demanding task, the DMN pulls that scored, incomplete melody into your conscious awareness, and the loop starts all over again.
Now, you mentioned a specific and often distressing clinical link between these persistent earworms and challenges with executive function.
Yes. Individuals diagnosed with conditions like ADHD often report earworms that are far more intense, persistent, and genuinely distressing. Sometimes they last for days or even weeks.
And this is connected to the core struggles of the condition.
It's directly connected to the inherent executive functioning struggles. specifically difficulties with filtering stimuli and an inability to intentionally switch your attention away from a thought, a process called cognitive perseveration.
So the brain gets caught in this auditory loop. It can't easily inhibit or exit.
That's it.
That's a powerful and often overlooked symptom. What does the research suggest about, say, pharmacological intervention in these cases?
The anecdotal and clinical evidence is quite strong. Many individuals report that ADHD medications, particularly stimulants which enhance focus and inhibitory control, significantly reduce or even eliminate these persistent musical loops.
Which supports the theory.
It supports the theory that by improving executive function, by giving the brain greater control over attention, the mind gains the inhibitory power it needs to break out of that frustrating involuntary cycle.
We've covered the total brain workout, the memory hub. Now let's explore the unique clinical applications of music therapy, or MT, in neurorehabilitation. The sources are unanimous on this. It's safe, it's cost-effective, and it's easy to implement.
Which makes it invaluable for recovery. And music therapy is a highly structured clinical intervention. Let's start with motor rehabilitation, specifically Rhythmic Auditory Stimulation, or RAS.
RAS.
This technique is remarkably effective because it leverages the motor system's profound sensitivity to predictable auditory input. It synchronizes a patient's movement, like walking, to a consistent musical beat.
What's happening inside the body that makes this timing so effective?
It's about external cues leveraging internal systems. RAS is believed to entrain the central pattern generators, or CPGs, which are in the spinal cord.
And they're normally responsible for rhythmic movements like walking.
They are. So when a patient with a movement disorder hears a beat, that external rhythm basically bypasses the dysfunctional neural circuits and provides a stable, predictable external timing cue.
Where does RAS work best?
It works wonders in regulating motor timing for patients with Parkinson's disease. It significantly improves their ability to start walking and steadies their movement, overcoming that common symptom of freezing.
And for stroke recovery?
For stroke recovery, rhythmic cueing significantly enhances lower limb motor function, which makes physical therapy more successful. We see specific, measurable results.
Yay.
Increased stride frequency, improved gait symmetry, longer stride length, and faster overall walking speed.
That level of mechanical entrainment is remarkable. The brain is literally using the external beat to rebuild its own internal timing mechanisms.
It's structured neuroplasticity in action.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, if you engage stroke patients in tasks like playing simple percussion instruments with rhythmic music, it can increase the frequency and fluency of their finger and upper extremity movements.
Promoting targeted reorganization in the parts of the motor cortex damaged by the stroke.
Precisely.
Okay, moving to cognitive and language recovery. Music is crucial in treating language impairments like aphasia.
Yes, aphasia is the difficulty in producing or comprehending language, often seen after a stroke.
And here we use something called melodic intonation therapy, or MIT.
Right. MIT cleverly bypasses the typical speech-language centers in the left hemisphere of the brain. Instead, it utilizes the right hemisphere's inherent strengths in processing melody, pitch, and rhythm.
How does it work in practice?
Patients learn to sing short phrases and sentences with this exaggerated musical intonation. Then, very slowly, the musical component is stripped away until they transition back to spoken language.
So you're using the intact musical pathways in the right brain to basically scaffold the rebuilding of language function in the damaged left brain.
Exactly. It promotes speech function recovery, significantly improving verbal communication and the ability to repeat complex language.
Let's discuss memory aids, or musical mnemonics. We all know the jingles we learned as kids, but scientifically, how does music help us learn complex, non-musical information?
The rhythmic melodic structure of a song isn't just fun, it's a powerful auditory scaffold. It imposes a temporal order onto verbal information.
And this gives it a clear neurophysiological advantage over just repeating words.
A huge advantage. The core benefits are strong. First, the structure segments information into smaller, more manageable chunks, which drastically reduces the load on your working memory.
Okay.
And second, the stability and predictability of the melody facilitate what we call deep encoding. This structure enhances verbal memory retrieval, particularly improving the recall of sequencing and word order, which is often the first thing to fail.
That sequencing is a huge cognitive challenge, and this benefit is seen even in patients with chronic neurological conditions.
It is. Studies on patients with conditions like multiple sclerosis showed superior learning and memory when verbal information was embedded in music compared to just a standard spoken condition.
So that melodic template is really driving the formation of internal rhythm in the brain's memory networks.
That's what the evidence strongly suggests.
And finally, what about dementia and Alzheimer's? We mentioned the resilience of the medial prefrontal cortex earlier.
Music therapy has profound potential here, leveraging that MPFC resilience. Familiar tunes, especially from that reminiscence bump period, they rekindle past memories. They induce a powerful positivity effect that improves mood.
Facilitates social interaction and reduces symptoms like agitation and depression.
And importantly, studies have shown that even purely instrumental music, without any lyrics or specific personal connection, is sufficient to induce positive reminiscence in Alzheimer's patients.
So the structure and melody alone are enough to evoke a powerful emotional and memory response.
They are.
Okay, let's look toward the horizon. So what does this all mean for the future of personalized medicine and music? We're seeing technology rapidly transforming this field.
Absolutely. The edge of innovation is all about integrating AI and objective physiological tracking for true personalization. Consider the Context AI Tune System, or CT.
CET.
This innovative system generates personalized, relaxing music that's dynamically tailored to two main inputs:
Good idea.
users' own self-assessed stress level and environmental cues detected by sensors or cameras.
Wait, so the music literally changes based on whether I'm in a quiet library versus a busy, brightly lit coffee shop. How does the AI read the environment and adjust the music?
Exactly that. The AI uses computer vision and microphone input to extract features like ambient noise, light levels, keywords in speech, even motion patterns.
And based on that objective input.
The algorithm dynamically adjusts the music's parameters in real time. Things like the timbre, the cadence, the pitch complexity, the harmonic density.
So if the environment is loud and complex, the music might become simpler and slower to counteract that sensory overload.
Precisely. It moves music from being a static background element to an active, tailored therapeutic intervention that responds to your immediate needs.
And that concept is strengthened by using biofeedback technology in music therapy.
Yes, therapists no longer have to rely only on self-reported mood. They can track objective physiological responses in real time.
Things like heart rate, brain waves, muscle tension.
All of it. Heart rate variability, skin conductance, EEG, EMG.
And how does that objective data translate into a musical prescription?
This data allows for precise calibration. For complex conditions like chronic pain or PTSD, where self-reporting can be unreliable, the biofeedback loop guides the adjustment of the music.
So you could slowly reduce the tempo to match a desired heart rate target, or change the harmony to encourage a shift from beta to alpha brainwave states.
You've got it. It allows for a truly personalized, measurable, and repeatable intervention.
That level of personalization is staggering. Where is the ultimate future trajectory headed?
The most advanced research is exploring genetic-based music therapy.
Wow.
The goal here is to select specific types of music or even generate unique compositions based on an individual's genetic variations in neuromodulators like dopamine and serotonin receptors.
So if my genetic makeup indicates lower baseline dopamine, you could tailor music to maximize the rewarding release of that chemical.
That is the goal, maximizing pleasure and relaxation effects based on your unique neurochemistry.
It's incredible to think that one day, a musical composition might be scientifically formulated just for your genetic code to optimize your mood and focus. #V. Conclusion and final takeaways. We have covered so much ground today. We've confirmed that music is far more than just entertainment. It's a fundamental cognitive tool.
It really is.
So to quickly recap, music is a total brain workout that demands intense, simultaneous processing. It strengthens neural pathways and provides measurable protection against age-related decline.
It also serves as a superior memory tool, forging those emotionally rich autobiographical memories, the MEAMs, anchored by that resilient medial prefrontal cortex.
And finally, music is a scientifically validated clinical tool essential for motor rehabilitation, speech recovery, and memory scaffolding.
The comprehensive nature of its interaction with the brain is just undeniable. And the critical takeaway for you, the learner, is actually pretty simple.
What is it?
Diversify your music exposure. If you consistently listen only to the music you heard in your teens and 20s, your brain gets comfortable. It gets lazy. It's just recognizing patterns it already knows.
But listening to new, unfamiliar, or structurally complex music.
That actively challenges the brain. It forces it to struggle to understand new rhythms, new tonalities, new sounds. And this cognitive effort, This struggle to make sense of new musical structure is what provides continuous and robust cognitive stimulation.
It's actively strengthening neural pathways across all those domains: auditory, motor, executive.
It's the cognitive equivalent of lifting a new, slightly heavier weight at the gym. Never let your brain settle into the same playlist rut.
I love that. Now let's leave our listeners with one final thought that ties all these neurological findings back to our human identity.
Okay. Experts and philosophers suggest that long before we developed complex, nuanced vocal language as we know it, music was likely a proto-language.
A musy language.
Yes. It emerged from primal calls and emotional articulations, driving social coordination and emotional bonding long before formal words evolved.
So it's not just some nice addition to the human experience. It is fundamentally hardwired into our collective neural structure.
And if we accept that music is intrinsically woven into our brain architecture, we have to consider its role not just as entertainment, but as this deep, powerful form of human communication.
There's a quote for this, isn't there?
There is. The philosopher Suzanne Langer noted that if music is a language of feeling, it reveals the nature of feelings with a detail and truth that language cannot approach.
So since music is so intrinsically woven into your neural structure, capable of forging new pathways and recalling your most deeply held emotions, how will you use this powerful natural tool to actively shape your emotional and cognitive life starting today? That is the deep dive for this week.